ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। So today, as you know, we will be discussing the life of Swami Abhidanandaji. His birthday according to the lunar calendar was on the 27th, and according to the solar calendar it was yesterday, 2nd October, along with Mahatma Gandhi. So let's start. So Swami Abhidanandaji was so many qualities combined in one person, like all the other monastic disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. He was a spiritual giant and a great tapasvi or ascetic. He was a great scholar and also a very powerful orator. So a really exceptional personality, and today we will discuss his life, basing it upon the has been written by Swami Gambhiranandaji Maharaj in his book The Disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, that is published by Advaita Ashrama. So like every time I will also share some photos. So Swami Abhidanandaji was born on 2nd October 1866 at 21 Nimu Goswami Lane, Ahiri Tola, Calcutta. So Ahiri Tola, this place we have already discussed when discussing the life of Rani Rasmani. Ahiri Tola Ghat I had shown you. So that picture I'll just share again. This is the Ahiri Tola Ghat, and from here Abhidanandaji Maharaj used to catch a boat and go to Dakshineshwar to meet the master. So he was born in this locality, and his father Rasiklal Chandra was an English teacher in the Oriental Seminary, a very famous school, and his mother Nayantara Devi was a very gentle and spiritual soul. So about the name of Swami Abhidanandaji, before he was born, his mother Nayantara Devi had prayed to the Divine Mother for a son. So when the child was born, she named him Kali Prasad. Kali Prasad means something which we have got by the blessings of Mother Kali. So this was the reason behind his name. In 1871, at the age of 5, Kali was admitted to nursery school where he studied for 2 years. He learned the alphabet, heard stories from the Ramayana and the Purana, etc. And from this very young age, he began to memorize Sanskrit verses on morality and ethics. And when he grew a little older, he joined the Banga Vidyalaya, that is pronounced as Bongo Vidyalaya in Bengali. So this school, I will show you the photos. Bongo Vidyalaya. See here, you can see this And those who can read Bengali, see it is written here, Ahiri Tola Bongo Vidyalaya. Sthapito means established 1859. 1859, of course, this means before the birth of Swami Abhedananda ji. So, and here also this is the same Bongo Vidyalaya, and here you can see the statue of the great scholar and philanthropist Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. So this is the Bongo Vidyalaya where Kali studied, and here also after studying in the evening, he would go to a Sanskrit school at a locality called Hathi Bagan, where he studied Sanskrit grammar. So needless to say, Kali was a very bright student and a voracious reader. Even at this young age, he studied classical Sanskrit literature, including great works of Kalidas like Raghuvansham, Kumara Sambhavam, Shakuntala, etc. And he also studied Hitopadesha and Bhatti Kavyam. Bhatti Kavyam is poetry. So those who are familiar with Sanskrit literature are also familiar with these names. These are extremely famous books. So he learned prosody and could compose verses in Sanskrit. And at the age of 10, Kali was admitted to the Oriental Seminary, the well-known high school where his father taught English. So I'll just show you the photos of Oriental Seminary. This is one photo taken from above. This building is still there. You can see very old building. And this is the gate. So here also you can see Oriental Seminary established 1829. Such an old school. So here Kali studied Wilson's History of India, and from there he learned about Shankaracharya. We know the great exponent of Vedanta. So Shankaracharya's life and works inspired Kali a great deal, and from then on he cherished a desire to become a philosopher like him. Now Kali was such a genius, he excelled in so many things. He was also taking a drawing class in the school, and within a year excelled greatly. So his teacher praised his skill and prophesied a bright future for him as an artist. But one day Kali told the teacher that he would not come to the drawing class anymore. Why? Because he had decided to become a philosopher. Now Kali was such a genius at drawing also that his teacher tried to convince him that it was better to be a painter than a philosopher. So what we all do, we think that that is the best thing to do. So the teacher also thought that painting was the best thing one could do. So he tried to persuade Kali to choose painting instead of philosophy. But Kali replied, "No, sir." He gave a very pertinent reply. He said, "No, sir. A painter studies the surface of things, but a philosopher goes below the surface and studies the causes of things. So I want to be a philosopher." And this was Kali's final decision, and he became a excellent philosopher, as we know, because he also applied that philosophy to his practical life. So now Kali became a young man, and in the 1880s, Calcutta was the capital of India. And all over the city, Many cultural activities, in addition to political and religious movements, used to be carried on. So Kali had a wonderful opportunity of attending the lectures of great leaders and scholars. So he attended the lectures of Surendranath Banerjee, a great national leader, Keshav Chandra Sen and Pratap Chandra Muzumdar. These two were famous Brahmo leaders, Brahmo Samaj, and also Reverend Kali Charan Banerjee, a Bengali Christian missionary. So these all four were stalwarts. So I'll just show you the photographs of these four. See, this is Surendranath Banerjee, and he's called S.N. Banerjee. So he was such a popular leader that the government of India even brought out a stamp in his honor. So this is the stamp, Surendranath Banerjee, you can see. And then the next great personality, Keshav Chandra Sen. We all know about him. He was a great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna also, and extremely famous in his time. He had been also honored by the Queen of England at that time, a great Brahmo leader. And then Pratap Chandra Mazumdar. This is Pratap Chandra Mazumdar. He was also a great Brahmo leader. And finally, Reverend Kali Chandra Banerjee. He was a Bengali Christian missionary. This is his photograph. So these were the learned people with whom Kali heard. So in 1882-83, Kali had the opportunity of hearing the talks of the great scholar Shashadhar Tarkachudamani. We know that this scholar was also drawn by the personality of Sri Ramakrishna. So Shashadhar Tarkachudamani gave a series of lectures on the 6 systems of Hindu philosophy. Kali regularly attended those lectures, and one day he expressed a desire to the scholar to learn the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali from him. Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, it's one of the 6 systems of philosophy. But Shashadhar was a very busy person, and he told Kali to go to another renowned scholar, Kalivar Vedanta Vagish. So now Kali went to Vedanta Vagish, who was at that time translating Patanjali's yoga aphorisms into English. So Vedanta Vagish told Kali that he was also busy, but he could explain the sutras to him in the mornings while his attendant gave him an oil massage before his bath. That time he had nothing to do. So if Kali could come at that time, he could explain the aphorisms to him. So Kali didn't lose this opportunity. He went to the scholar at those appointed times and completed his study of the yoga philosophy in this way. But all this was just book knowledge, and that could never satisfy Kali. He was looking for direct realization. He actually wanted to experience the truths which were stated in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. So he began to search for a spiritual teacher. And by God's grace, in 1884, he had the opportunity to go to Dakshineshwar and meet the master himself. So Dakshineshwar we all know. So in 1884, he had the opportunity to meet the master, and in this way he described the first meeting. He said, I entered the room and bowed down to the master. The master asked about me, and I told him, I have a desire to learn yoga. Will you kindly teach me? So hearing this, the master kept quiet for a while and then said, "It is very good that you have a desire to learn yoga at this young age itself. You were a yogi in your previous life. A little was left for perfection. This will be your last birth. Yes, I shall teach you. Rest tonight and come to me again tomorrow, next morning." This is what the master said. So Kali continues his reminiscences. He said, "The next morning, entering the master's room, I bowed down to him, and he then asked me which class I was studying him and all that. So Kali answered. So after that, the master said, "Very good." Then he took me to the northern veranda. He asked me to sit on a cot. When I was seated in the lotus posture, the master asked me to stick out my tongue. As soon as I did that, he wrote a mantra on it with the middle finger of his right hand and advised me to meditate on Kali, the Divine Mother. I did what he said. Gradually, I lost outer consciousness and sat in deep meditation. I felt an unspeakable joy within. I didn't know how long I stayed in that condition. After some time, the master touched my chest and brought me back to outer consciousness. He then asked me what had happened, and I told him about my blissful experience during meditation. Afterwards, the master instructed me on meditation. So this was the first meeting of Kali with the master, and this is probably the first photograph of Swami Abhedananda Ji which was taken. It is a part of the group photograph at Baranagar Mutt. So you can see what a young boy he is. Even at that young age, he had attained such great heights of spirituality. So now, whenever he could, Kali went to the master in Dakshineshwar. Naturally, his father did not approve of these frequent visits. And once he locked the main door of the house so that Kali could not go to Dakshineshwar. But one afternoon, someone left the door unlocked. So Kali ran to the Airitola Ghat and went to Dakshineshwar by boat. And that night he stayed with the master. So now Kali began to practice spiritual disciplines under the master's guidance, and through his grace was blessed with many wonderful visions. So one significant thing which happened now was, one day while meditating at home, Kali saw various gods and goddesses and divine incarnations like Krishna, Christ, Chaitanya and others, and he saw that all of them merged one by one into the luminous form of Sri Ramakrishna. So after having this experience, he went to the master and told him about it. So hearing this, Sri Ramakrishna said, "Ah, you have seen Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is supposed to be the abode of Vishnu. So henceforth you will no longer have these visions. You have risen to the formless state." And of course, this prediction of the master turned out to be true. So now Kali began to stay at Dakshineshwar more and more, and his father could not stand it, and his mother was despairing for her son. So one day Kali's father came to the Kashipur garden house where Sri Ramakrishna spent his last days and told him that Kali's mother was crying bitterly for her son. So Ramakrishna sent Kali home once, but naturally Kali could not stay there long. He felt that he was in a prison. So after spending some time, he came back again to the master. So time passed on in this way, and Now we will discuss another incident, interesting one. So this incident took Kali to Gaya. Gaya, you know, where Sri Ramakrishna's father Kshudiram had that wonderful vision where he learned that God himself would be born as his son. So the same Gaya. So what had happened was, once the great saint Vijay Krishna Goswami, he was visiting Sri Ramakrishna. I'll just show you a photo. This is Vijay Krishna Goswami. So he was visiting the master in Kashipur, and there he spoke highly of a great Hatha Yogi. Hatha Yogi, you know, those who perform various kinds of asanas or postures to make their body fit. Those are called Hatha Yogis. So Vijay Krishna Goswami praised a Hatha Yogi whom he had met in Gaya, in hills of Gaya. So when he heard of this yogi, Kali desperately wanted to see him. So without telling anybody, he left for Gaya. And he went to the spot where the yogi was living. That was about 8 miles from Gaya station. And he passed the night in an inn meant for pilgrims, rest house sort of thing. So this Kali's passing the night in the inn was very significant because there he met a monk from Shankaracharya's Dashanami Sampradaya. Dashanami means the 10 names which Shankaracharya had given to the sects he had formed. So he met a monk of that sect from the Puri Sampradaya, Puri sect, and he copied from his notebook the monastic vows of the Shankaracharya's order. So this proved to be of great significance and very useful. We will see how. So next morning, after copying those mantras, Kali went to the yogi. But the villagers warned him that the yogi was kind of a dangerous person because his disciples would throw stones at anyone who tried to meet him, but Kali was very much eager. So he went to the yogi still. He took a back route through the jungle and began to climb the hill on which the yogi was there. So at last he suddenly appeared at the entrance of the cave where the yogi was seated with his disciples. So quickly Kali bowed down to the yogi and said Om Namo Narayana, and Kali was wearing a monk's ochre robe. So the disciples did not attack him and they asked him questions, etc. about the sannyasa mantras and all. So Kali, since he had copied the sannyasa vows just the night previously, he could tell them about that. So he was saved for the time being. Now Kali asked the yogi to teach him pranayam, hatha yoga, etc. But soon afterwards, Kali realized that this yogi was not at all a perfect yogi, far from that. He knew only a few techniques of pranayama. And at that moment, the compassionate form of Sri Ramakrishna appeared in his mind, and Kali realized that he had made a great mistake. Even after getting a guru like Sri Ramakrishna, he was searching for other gurus. So, but Kali was now trapped. He wanted to leave, but the yogi did not approve, and he was afraid to run away because the disciples might kill him. But in the afternoon, Kali pretended that he was going down the hill to bring water from outside the cave, and as he went a few yards, he began to run down the hill to escape. So the disciples started to throw stones at him, But fortunately, Kali reached the village without injury, and the next morning itself, he took a train back to Kashipur, back to his master. So he told Sri Ramakrishna about the incident, but far from being angry, Sri Ramakrishna just smiled and blessed Kali. So now we come to the part which is after Sri Ramakrishna's passing away. After the passing away, the disciples established the Baranagar Mutt. That we know was an abandoned, dilapidated two-story building infested with snakes and said to be haunted by ghosts. And the rooms on the ground floor were dark, damp, unfit for habitation, so they were used as kitchen and storage. And the monks set up a shrine in the room upstairs. The relics of the master were brought from Balram Basu's house, and a picture of the master was placed on the altar. So as soon as Kali heard about the Baranagar monastery, he returned to Calcutta. He had gone outside somewhere and joined his other brother monks. And the southernmost room of the second floor was used by him for meditation and study. And the room was given the name Kali Tapasvi's room. That Tapasvi means ascetic. So that room got the name from Kali Tapasvi's room, because Kali used to spend most of his day there, and all the disciples led very austere lives there. We know it's a wonderful chapter in this formation of the Ramakrishna order, which we can study in greater detail later. So there they performed unheard of austerities and spiritual practices. And once when Kali was there, he went to Holy Mother. So, going to Holy Mother, Kali recited before her the hymn he had composed about her. We all know that hymn, Prakritim Paramam Abhayam Varadam. O divine nature supreme, remove all fears, giver of all boons, etc. So this he had composed at such a young age, and he recited the hymn before the master, and after listening to the hymn, Holy Mother blessed him, saying, "May Saraswati, the goddess of learning, sit on your tongue." This was the great blessing Kali received from Holy Mother that day. Now, after some time, Narendra or Swami Vivekananda proposed to his brother disciples that they should now all take the vows of monasticism or sannyasa according to the scriptural injunctions. And Kali told them that he had a copy of the sannyasa mantras. Those mantras he had copied from that monk of the Shankaracharya order. So that proved to be very useful now. And in the third week of January 1887, the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna took final monastic vows by performing the traditional Virja Homa ceremony in front of the master's picture. And Swamiji gave Kali the name Swami Abhedananda. It was then that he received the name Abhedananda. Now we come to the portion where we will learn about Abhedanandaji's pilgrimages. In March 1887, Swami Abhedananda, Premananda and Sardananda went to Puri for a pilgrimage and stayed 6 months in the MR monastery. This monastery has now been demolished, but fortunately an old photo exists. So this is the monastery. Amara Mutt. Mutt is monastery. Now this does not exist any longer, it has been demolished. So it was here that they stayed and they lived on the prasad of Jagannath. Jagannath temple was there nearby and practiced spiritual disciplines most of the time. And in February 1889, Abhedanandaji travelled with Holy Mother and a party to Kamarpukur and Jairambati via Atpur. He stayed with Mother for some time in Jairambati and then decided to go on a pilgrimage to various pilgrim centers of North India. And Holy Mother gave her permission. So Swami Nirmalananda also accompanied Swami Abhedananda on this pilgrimage. This is a photo of Swami Nirmalananda, a very great soul. He had also met Sri Ramakrishna. So Swami Nirmalananda now decided to accompany Abhedanandaji and they walked barefoot, living only on alms, that is bhiksha. And they walked 20 to 25 miles a day. And after walking over 500 miles, the Swamis reached Ghazipur. Ghazipur at that time was the place where Hari Prasanna means later Swami Vijnanandaji had not joined the monastery till then. So he was working as an engineer in Ghazipur. This is Vijnanandaji's photo. So these people met Hari Prasanna, who was working as an engineer there, and of course Hari Prasanna was delighted to see them and showed both the Swamis around the place. And in Ghazipur, Abhedanandaji also met the great yogi Pavari Baba, whom Swamiji had also met. And Abhedanandaji also met and was greatly impressed with the yogi. So from Ghazipur, the Swamis went to Varanasi. Varanasi, you know, the abode of Lord Shiva and Annapurna. So here you can see the photo of Swami Abhedanandaji with a begging bowl and a staff. So in Varanasi, they visited the temples, circumambulated the holy city, and met such great souls like Swami Bhaskarananda and Trilinga Swami. After staying for a few days there, they went to Ayodhya. Ayodhya, you know, the birthplace of Sri Ramachandra. Then after visiting Lucknow also, they arrived at Haridwar Rishikesh, the abode of ascetics in the foothills of the Himalayas. Abhedananda built a thatched hut in Rishikesh and practiced spiritual disciplines there. From Rishikesh, they walked hundreds of miles in the high altitudes of the Himalayas and visited such places like Devaprayag, Joshimath, Badrinath, Kedarnath, Uttarkashi, Gangotri and Jamnotri, etc. So all these places are very, very difficult to visit, and in those times they were very difficult. So such a wonderful pilgrimage and most difficult Abhedanandaji and Nirmalanandaji made. Finally they returned to Rishikesh, and during his stay in Rishikesh, Swami Abhedanandaji studied the Brahma Sutras with Shankaracharya's commentary from the great scholar Dhanraj Giri, the abbot and founder of the Kailash Mutt. So this is the Kailash Mutt. So Dhanraj Giri was a very famous scholar. In fact, Swami Vivekananda also had gone to study under him. He was such a great scholar. And when Swamiji had gone and he asked Dhanraj Giri about Abhedanandaji, so praising Abhedanandaji, Dhanraj Giri had said that Abhedananda had an extraordinary intellect. So this was the praise Abhedanandaji earned from such a great scholar. And during his stay in Rishikesh, Abhedananda unfortunately became ill with bronchitis and high fever, So very fortunately for him, Turiyanandji and Sardanandji were there at that time, and they took care of their brother disciple. And later in March 1890, they sent him to Varanasi for treatment. Abhedanandji gradually recovered there and returned to the Baranagar monastery again. But Abhedanandji did not stay at the monastery long. So here you can see a photo of the young Abhedananda. So from Baranagar monastery, he also wanted to travel to other places. So he now went to Gaya again and then again to Varanasi. Then he went to Prayag, Agra, Delhi, Udaipur, Jaipur, Khetri, Mount Abu and Girna. And this was in Gujarat, And in Gujarat, in Porbandar, he heard that Swami Vivekananda was in Junagadh. So when he heard that, he went to Junagadh and met Swamiji there. From Junagadh, Abhedanandji went to Dwarka. Dwarka, Sri Krishna's kingdom on the coast of the Arabian Sea. From there, he went to Bombay. From Bombay to Mahabaleshwar. Mahabaleshwar, he again met Swami Vivekananda. Then Abhedanandji came to central India and visited Pune, Baroda, Nasik and Dandakaranya. Dandakaranya is a place connected with Sri Ramchandra. Then he travelled to some important holy places in South India also. Rameshwaram, Madurai, Tanjore, Kumbhakonam, Kanchi, etc. And he had a number of spiritual experiences, visited many temples and places of interest, and finally returned to Calcutta via Madras by ship. So another photo of Abhedanandji we can see here. See how young he is. So in 1892, the Ramakrishna monastery was moved from Baranagar to Alam Bazar, and this was a two-story building with a number of rooms. There was also a small lawn and a pond in the compound. This was also supposed to be haunted. So the disciples of Ramakrishna got it at a cheap price. It was a rented place. There also they set up the shrine of the master. There, compared to Baranagar, it was a little more comfortable. And in September 1893, we know Swamiji represented Hinduism at the Parliament of Religions. This is also a photo of the young Abhedanandji. So, in September 1893, Swami represented Hinduism, but of course, there were many people who became jealous at his fame and spread of Hinduism, etc. So many people spread so many false rumors about him, so that he was not representing Hinduism, he was a fraud and all that. So Swamiji wrote to his brother disciples in Calcutta that please call a meeting. Many of my friends here are believing these false rumors. Please call a meeting with some famous people of Calcutta and pass a resolution that I indeed belong to the ancient order of monks of Hinduism and I actually represented Hinduism at the Parliament of Religions. So as soon as they got the letter, the disciples of the master started planning the meeting and finally organized a big public meeting in Calcutta. Abhedanandji moved to Balram Bose's house in Calcutta temporarily so that he could easily make contact with prominent religious leaders, scholars, high government officials, writers, journalists, etc. All eminent people he could find. And they held a meeting and the Honorable Raja Pierre Mohan Mukhopadhyay promised to preside over the meeting. So there they passed a resolution that ratifying what Swami Vivekananda had done, and the Raja remarked, India should remain eternally grateful to Swami Vivekananda for the highest honor accorded to him in America as a representative of the Hindu religion. So a very large public meeting was organized, and Abhedanandaji was the chief motivator and organizer. The meeting was organized on 5th September 1894 in the Town Hall of Calcutta. I'll just show you the photo of the Town Hall. This is the Town Hall as it is today, but that time it had a different appearance. This was probably how it looked in Abhedanandaji's time. So there a large meeting was held, and the resolutions of the meeting were unanimously carried out and were forwarded to Swamiji, Dr. John Henry Barrows, and other dignitaries. So now Swamiji began to write to his brother disciples from America that now they will have to get to work. So Swamiji said that the mission of his life was to create a new order of monks in India who would dedicate their lives to serve others and also scatter broadcast all over the world the life-giving ideas of the Master. It would not do for the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna to sit in a cave and spend the rest of their lives in meditation. They would have to give up their lives for the good of others and spread the message of the Master to all parts of the globe. So now Swamiji, to carry on this work, decided to call Abhedanandaji. Here you can see, this is also most probably taken in America. So now Swamiji called Abhedanandaji to start preaching work in London, and Abhedanandaji went there in 1896. So now what happened was another very interesting incident. Swamiji knew that, all the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna were, they didn't want to put themselves in the limelight. They preferred to remain in the background. They were all so meditative by nature. So probably Swami Vivekananda realized that if he asked Abhedanandaji to lecture from a public platform, Abhedanandaji would probably refuse. So Swamiji, what he did was, he announced, even without asking without even informing Swami Abhedananda, he announced that a learned brother disciple of his who had just arrived from India would deliver a lecture on Advaita Vedanta at the next meeting to be held in the Christo-Theosophical Society of London. Abhedanandaji did not know anything about this. So as soon as Abhedanandaji came to know, and he saw that his name was being flashed in handbills and newspapers, even without his knowledge. So Abhedanandaji became extremely nervous, because he had not stood before on any public platform to deliver a speech, either in English or in any Indian language. So he strongly remonstrated with Swamiji for this step, which he thought was unwise, but his arguments proved to be of no avail. Swamiji reassured him, depend on him who has ever given me strength and courage in all the trials of my life. That him we know was Sri Ramakrishna. So relying on the Master, Swami Abhedanandaji appeared at the meeting on the appointed day. The hall was completely packed. And by Sri Ramakrishna's grace, the maiden speech which Swami Abhedanandaji delivered before the society was a tremendous success. At this, Swami Vivekananda's joy knew no bounds. And referring to this happy occasion, Mr. Eric Hammond, an English disciple of Swami Vivekananda, wrote, I quote him, the master, that is Swami Vivekananda, was more than content to have effaced himself in order that his brother's opportunity should be altogether unhindered. The whole impression had in it a glowing beauty, quite indescribable. It was though as the master thought, master means here Swami Vivekananda, it was though as Swami Vivekananda thought, even if I perish on this plane, my message will be sounded through these dear lips and that the world will hear it. And hearing Swami Abhedananda's first lecture, Captain Xavier, another English disciple of Swami Vivekananda, made this observation. He said, Swami Abhedananda is a born preacher. Wherever he will go, he will have success. So this is an uncommon photo of Abhedanandaji with Swamiji and Turiyanandji in America. So here standing, this is Abhedanandaji. To his right is Turiyanandji with a beard, and Swami Vivekananda is seated below, as we can see. So from the photo it looks like it must have been a cold day and everybody was enjoying the sun like we sometimes get to enjoy the sun in Vancouver, not often of course. So now Swami Vivekananda was fully confident that even in his absence, Abhedanandaji would be the fittest person to carry on the work which he had started in London. So he entrusted him with the charge of his classes on Vedanta and Raj Yoga and left for India in December 1896. So Swami Abhedananda continued his classes and delivered public lectures in churches and before religious and philosophical societies in London and its suburbs for 1 year. And during his stay in London, he formed acquaintances with many distinguished scholars like Professor Max Muller and Professor Paul Deussen. His eloquence and his lucid, I think it is pronounced Paul Deussen, but I'm not sure. So anyway, Swami Abhedanandaji's eloquence and his lucid exposition of Vedanta philosophy and above all his depth of spiritual realization made a profound impression on all who came in touch with him and listened to his illuminating lectures. So in 1897, a new chapter was opened in Abhedanandaji's life. At the request of his American friends and with the approval of Swami Vivekananda, Swami Abhedananda crossed the Atlantic and landed in New York on 9th August to take charge of the Vedanta Society which had already been started there. So he was almost penniless at this time and had to work very hard, but by the dint of his perseverance, self-confidence and unflinching faith in Sri Ramakrishna, he was soon able to create a field for himself and overcome all the difficulties. But again, here also his success, excited the jealousy of Christian missionaries who began to spread all sorts of lies. But Swami Abhedananda was not daunted in the least and carried on his work and was soon acclaimed as a great exponent of Hindu thought and culture. So he was so popular that in one hall, Mott Memorial Hall, in one hall itself, he had to deliver 90 lectures, 90 lectures to satisfy public demand. And he met great scholars of his time. In 1898, he met Professor William James and had a long discussion with him. So, as like with all the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vedananda's teachings were very practical. This is Vedanandji in his middle age. You can see the photo there. So, Swami once said, his teachings I will quote, he said, whether we believe in God or not, whether we have faith in prophets or not, if we have self-control, concentration, truthfulness, and unselfish love for all, then we are on the way to spiritual perfection. On the contrary, if one says that if one professes to believe in God or in a creed and does not possess these four qualities, he is no more spiritual than a worldly person. In fact, his belief in God is only a verbal one. So Swami Abhedananda traveled all through the United States, Alaska, and also Mexico, and delivered addresses on various phases of the Vedanta philosophy. He made frequent trips to Europe also, delivering lectures to appreciative audiences. So his scholarship was tremendous, and his intellectual brilliance, dignified bearing, and nobility of character, everything combined so that he could command loving homage from one and all. So, except for a short visit to India in 1906, Swami Abhedanandaji spent almost a quarter of a century, that is 25 years, in spreading the message of the Master in Western civilization. And he was also a very powerful writer also. Here is another photo of Swami Abhedananda in his middle age. So, after a long and successful work in America, Swami Abhedananda returned to India in 1921. On the way, he visited Japan, China, Philippines, Singapore, and Kuala Lumpur, also Rangoon, and spread the message of the Master in those places also. And he was now 57 years old. But after reaching India also, he started on a long tour of Tibet and Kabul. And he also visited Peshawar, Punjab, and other places of northern India, and reached Belur Math in 1923. And then, to carry on Vedanta in India according to his own plan and method, he established a Vedanta center by the name of Ramakrishna Vedanta Math in central Calcutta. So this is another photo of Swami Abhedanandaji, you can see. So this is Ramakrishna Vedanta Math. I have gone there quite a few times. They call us on special occasions. So this is the Vedanta Math, and this is their shrine. You can see the photographs of the Master, Holy Mother, Swamiji, and below that it is Swami Abhedananda's photo. This is the shrine, and this is the one photo of inside of the math. So many, attracted by his personality, many distinguished men used to come to meet him at this math, and he also started a Bengali monthly under the name Vishwavani. Vishwa means world, Vani means the voice. So the universal voice, we can say, this is the first page of this journal. Those who can read Bengali will see that it is written Vishwavani here. So he started this journal. It is still being printed, published regularly. But such hard work and so much traveling and all now began to tell upon Abhedanandaji's health. And even his iron constitution now broke down under the tremendous pressure of work. So I'll just show you another photo. Beautiful photo of Abhedanandaji. So even though he became weak and was ailing, but he was still full of fire and enthusiasm. And in 1937, he was called upon to preside over the Parliament of Religions held at the Town Hall of Calcutta on the occasion of the birth centenary of Sri Ramakrishna in 1937. And Abhedanandaji spoke there and emphasized the message of the Master. He said, the mission of Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna was to show by his living example how a truly spiritual man, being dead to the world of the senses, can live on the plane of God consciousness. And he said that for the first time it was demonstrated that all religions were like so many paths leading to the same goal, that the realization of the same Almighty Being is the highest ideal of Christianity, Mohammedanism, Judaism, Hinduism, as well as of all religions of the world. So now we come to the best part. The best part is that we have a recording, a small recording of this speech which Abhedanandaji had given. It is a 6-minute recording. As far as I know, this is the only voice recording of any monastic disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. So I'll just play this for a few seconds. It is too long to be played fully. So you can hear Abhedanandaji's voice now.
শ্রী রামকৃষ্ণ শতবার্ষিকী জন্মোৎসব উপলক্ষে রামকৃষ্ণ বেদান্ত সমিতির সভাপতি স্বামী অভেদানন্দজি মহারাজের শ্রদ্ধাঞ্জলি। ওম নমো ভগবতে রামকৃষ্ণায়।
This is the voice of Abhedanandaji.
ঊনবিংশ শতাব্দী যুগ সন্ধিক্ষণে যখন পাশ্চাত্য জড়বাদের বন্যা সারা ভারতকে প্লাবিত করিয়াছিল, খ্রিস্টান ধর্মের প্রভাব সমগ্র হিন্দু সমাজের মস্তিষ্ক বিকৃত করিয়া সনাতন ধর্মের প্রতি বিদ্বেষ ও বিতৃষ্ণা আনয়ন করিয়াছিল, তখনই ধর্মগ্লানি দূর করিয়া সনাতন ধারাকে পুনর্জীবিত করিবার জন্য ভগবান শ্রী রামকৃষ্ণ পরমহংসদেবের শুভাগমন এই বিশ্বে হইয়াছিল।
So I'm just playing a little here because so this was the last public utterance of Swami Abhedanandaji. Now the end was near. This is a beautiful photograph of Swami Abhedanandaji taken in America. So end was coming near, and I quote from Swami Gambhiranandaji's book. The Swami left the mortal frame on 8th September 1939 and passed into the realm of eternal bliss to enjoy a well-earned rest. The passing of such an outstanding personality from the arena of Indian life was mourned by a large number of people in India and abroad. He was one of the remarkable spiritual and cultural ambassadors of India to the outside world, and his was indeed a life in which we find a happy blending of profound spirituality and a spirit of service, a life dedicated to the spiritual upliftment of humanity. He came to the world in obedience to the divine will to fulfill the mission of the Master, and after his task had been finished, he went back to the source of light and life from which he had come. So at the end, I will just show you what is most probably because I don't know exactly, most probably the last photograph taken of Abhedanandji in his advanced years on his birthday. So here you can see he's quite old at this time. Garlanded, and many people had offered flowers at his feet. Most probably it was his birthday. So this was, in very brief, an outline of the wonderful life of a very, very great soul, a monastic disciple of Sri Ramakrishna himself. We can end here. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.